I mean, we've just started research really. So we're kind of chatting to lots of different people, doing research, figuring out what we want to put in the film. But we kind of came across you guys and the work you're doing at the gym, which is just kind of really interesting and quite different. We couldn't find many other places that are doing something similar. So just as a kind of research conversation, we'd love to hear a little bit about kind of how you got started doing it and like what the scheme actually does and how you see it helping people in particular because we're really curious.
Yeah, that's fine. I've got a lot to tell you. So just tell me where you want to start, really, I suppose.
What got you into boxing coaching and mentoring?
So I suppose like what I do now, it kind of just came to me one day in a flash of inspiration. That's all I can explain it. I when I was younger, I was very small for my age. I got diagnosed with ADHD when I was 14, but I was always struggling in the school system. I did a lot at school as well. As I got older and I started to get a bit bigger and stronger, I had a really bad temper from where I was bullied, and I started to get into a lot of fights and stuff like that as well. And boxing was something that really kind of helped me make a massive difference to my life. So when I was younger, I was kind of very involved in the partying and doing drugs and all that kind of stuff. And I suppose, I mean, I wasn't like what you call a hardcore criminal, but I was just off the rails in general. And boxing kind of gave me that discipline and that focus, but it also opened my eyes to a lot of things. And I saw how people who you traditionally think of as being a bad man come into the boxing gym, and the way they would behave in there compared to how they'd behave out on the street, was eye-opening as well. And how someone you'd think was traditionally tough would get in the boxing ring and they'd do absolutely crap, whereas you look at another person and you wouldn't think anything of them, and they'd be beating everyone up. So it's just a really powerful tool for kind of transformation, and it had a massive effect on me. And when I was about 22, I just kind of suddenly had this idea that actually what I need to do is use boxing for working with young men, to kind help them make the changes that I did in my life.
Yeah.
Did you have a mentor that helped you?
There are certain people that have kind of influenced me massively. When I went to Portsmouth University, I actually started Portsmouth University Boxing Club. There was kind of a club running at the time, but whoever was running it kind of stopped and it all cancelled. So I kind of reinvigorated it. And I brought in a coach from the Navy. His name was Q, and he kind of helped get the club up and running. And he actually inspired me a lot and mentored me with certain things. And in particular, this guy is someone who he kind of, if he's so confident, he would come into the class and he'd make these stupid, cheesy jokes in front of everyone. And everyone would kind of like laughing, half cringing, but he wouldn't care. So that kind of really helped with my own social anxiety and standing in front of people and that kind of thing. So just seeing him in action kind of helped me think about myself and how I interact with people.
Emotional reactivity, boundary pushing, and rebellion are all part of ADHD. How does this resonate with you?
I mean, ADHD is such a myriad of issues. I mean, there's the social and emotional aspect of, because anyone that's ADHD, I think, is also a little bit on the autistic spectrum. So that natural way of interacting with people socially isn't there. So you can get problems. I think that is what contributed to the bullying that I went through when I was younger as well. I haven't got a diagnosis of autism, but I think there is an aspect of autism in there. It's hard to tell because it's all mangled up into one big lump. Yeah. I wouldn't say I'm like a hardcore autistic person, but I mean, just for example, in terms of like even in social interactions, I'm having to micromanage my behavior and think about things, and a lot of it's just become ingrained as a habit now, so it's not so much at the forefront of my mind. But there's a lot of social interactions I've had to question over my lifetime. I think, why has this happened? Why has this turned out the way it did, and had to analyze it. But with ADHD, I mean, the biggest things I think are the impulsivity, and you also just feel emotions so strongly. So, if it's anger, whether it's sadness, all that kind of stuff, being able to manage your emotions is really the hardest part of it. And in particular for me, like when I was younger, you used to be able to wind me up to the point where I just flip. And then once I flipped, I didn't really care what I did. And that was what got me in a lot of trouble, especially when mixed with alcohol. And then there's also the thrill seeking aspect combined with the boredom aspect. So that makes
Yeah.
it hard to stay in a lesson, or it makes it hard to kind of stick at anything for too long. You're like, when you do something new for the first time, you give it 100% and you love it, but then after a little while, it loses its appeal, and then it's hard to maintain that same motivation that you had with it before.
How did you keep going with boxing if you have ADHD?
Because boxing's, I would say it's like the best drug I've ever done, because it you go in and you're getting fit and you're healthy and it's making you strong, and so it's kind of satisfying you on that level. But then when you're actually boxing, sparring, the kind of the rush you have at the end of it, your testosterone rises, especially if you've duffed the other bloke up a little bit, saying there's always room for improvement. Do you see what I mean? And then there's the actual competing side of it, where you've got events to look forward to, and there's the whole night of it, that kind of thing, and then going out afterwards. So there's the other side of it as well. I mean, I've done so many things involved in boxing. There's the actual competing side, but then I've also put on my own boxing shows as well, which I really enjoyed. I used to go and interview fighters. I've got my own YouTube channel, so that was fun. So there's all the different aspects of it. I also live streamed fights as well. Did like a little pay-per-view channel thing. So it's just but my main heart is with the power of boxing for transformation, and that's kind of where I've come back to now, really, and I'm doing it on a serious level.
Who do you mostly work with?
So I operate as what is known as an alternative provision, so alternative education provision. So I work with schools, but I also work with organisations such as the youth offending teams. So I have referrals generally from around 12, 13 up to 18, and they will be for anything from low-level disruptive behaviour right up to the serious knife crime, gang crime type stuff.
What does a typical session involve?
So, I mean, generally it's a matter of being able to engage them, and that's what the boxing's there for. So I usually go and do an hour of boxing with them, and then I'll usually do an hour of mentoring with them afterwards as well. So it depends. I mean, it's purely different for every single young person and what they need. Some, they just need confidence building and that kind of stuff. Others, they're completely disengaged with education, and you're trying to kind of get them to have some aspirations and get them back on track with that education thing. So sometimes I'm just sitting and talking to them about things that are going on in their life. Other times I get them to the point where they're like, right, actually I want to start learning again, and then I'll start doing some projects with them based around entrepreneurship, that kind of stuff. They might be interested in being a personal trainer, so I'll say, okay, let's sit down and figure out what you need to do to become a personal trainer, and way. So we'll look at like competition, how much to charge, like all that kind of stuff, how to market it, and then somehow refer that back to the education aspect. So okay, you need to build a website, so for this you need to know what to type, you need to know what to type, you need your English, or you need to know how much to charge or do your accounts, you need your maths for that. So it's trying to make the education relevant to what they're doing. That's the hope, basically, get them back into lessons. Stop them getting expelled as well.
Do you work with adults with ADHD?
Yeah, I work with adults all the time as well. Like I have my own private clients that I do after school. And again, it's anyone that needs help with health, fitness, nutrition, like psychological motivation, that kind of stuff. I mean, I kind of specialize in the younger years because I feel they're the ones that need it more. But if I get an adult ring me up, I've had a woman not too long ago message me, and she must have been 40, and she had ADHD, and she just wanted to come and work on her fitness and her motivation and talk about ADHD. So it's whoever can benefit, really.
Based on the article on your website, how does boxing help with ADHD?
One of the main problems with ADHD is that emotional control. So you have to put yourself in positions where you're under stress, so that when you feel that anger or you feel that anxiety, you can counteract it, because the feeling isn't the actual reality, for example. So you might feel nervous about walking into a room, right? But that's just a feeling. You don't have to let that control you. Likewise, when you're angry, that it takes strength to not give in to that anger and let it go. So you'll put yourself in positions like, for example, you're doing, when you feel yourself getting tired doing push-ups or hitting the bag, you keep pushing yourself, and over time that mental strength and resilience builds up. So that's kind of how it connects across to ADHD. And then there's the discipline aspect of it, where even if you don't feel like going boxing, you're making yourself go, you're making yourself do it, which is massive with ADHD. You have to have that discipline. So I was just going to say the sparring aspect of it as well is when, you know, that self-control in the moment when, you know, you're getting beaten up a bit and you're having to continue fighting, or, you know, or you're getting a bit angry and frustrated, having to keep yourself calm in real time under high pressure is what develops you. I mean, it's not the be all and end all, but I mean, for example, sometimes if I'm feeling low, I'll take myself for a run, because then you get the, you know, I can think about and process, you know, what's going on in my head whilst I'm running, and then you get the endorphins and the adrenaline raise, which helps you feel better. You know, there's other things you can throw in with it as well. I mean, a lot of the time you need the right people around you to talk to and people who understand it. So, you know, it's like I said, it's a complex issue, and it needs a lot of kind of different things. You know, there's other aspects as well, like meditation and relaxation type stuff that you can do too. But I mean, the boxing specifically, I feel, works on that emotional regulation, and just, you know, well, like for ADHD, it's that emotional regulation.
How long does your program last?
I mean, it depends on the person, but generally, you know, it's 3 to 6 months. I mean, it takes time to get results. It's not like you can meet someone once and then bam, they're sorted, and they have to be committed to it as well. Some people just aren't ready to make changes because there's an element of what you call introspection. You have to be honest with yourself and look at your negative parts, or your shadow work, so to speak. And if you're not ready to do that, because there can be a lot of psychological defense mechanisms and shame and trauma that have come from growing up with ADHD. And if if you're always projecting that the problem's on the outside and not with you, it's hard to make changes. So it purely depends on the person. Some people, to be honest with you, I do a couple of sessions with them and boom, they're hooked, and they're making progress already. Other people, 3-4 months in, you just turn around and think, you know what, you're not ready to make progress yet. So
How do you assess what someone needs in the first session?
well, the first time I see someone, I just literally chat to them and just see that we can actually get on and, you know, just have a laugh. And I don't try to go too deep too soon, but in that first meeting, I'm just literally framing what the sessions are going to be about. And I usually just say to them at the end of the day, because it's with young people that I'm working with too, I say, listen, I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm not here to tell you you're right or wrong. I'm just here to provide that lived experience of someone who's kind of been through the system and understands it. And I'm here to help you kind of help guide you to become a man who can survive and look after himself when he's older. Because that's ultimately the aim of raising someone, isn't it? Of bringing someone up.
Yeah.
How do you manage routine and mundane tasks, such as admin?
I mean, for me, I still to this day, I struggle with paperwork. I struggle with admin. And my whole life I've struggled because I've struggled to remain in one job for too long. It's been really hard for me to find something that really kind of makes me wake up each day and look forward to doing it, but at the same time has that routine and stability and brings me enough money to survive, etc., etc. So yeah, it's.
How did you find it starting your own business?
I mean, it's one of those ones where I've kind of been running my business on and off for years, but then I've also had hiccups with it, and I had to go into work, and then after I've been in work for a little while, I'm like, right, this isn't for me, and come back to it. But over the years, I've had realizations, and I've become aware of where my weak points are, and you know, now I'm so aware of it. Like if I come home and I'm just sitting there doing nothing, there's a voice in the back of my head saying, right, you need to do this, you need to do that. And I have like what you call the 5-minute rule. Just get started for 5 minutes, you know, and if after 5 minutes you still can't be bothered, then fine. But once you start doing it, after 5 minutes, you usually find you're into it. And then I kind of go the other way, and then I find it hard to stop myself and I get it all done. So
How much effort is it to get started?
oh, you have to psych yourself up. It's like psyching yourself up for a boxing fight.
Really?
Because what it is, it's the thought of doing work. With ADHD, it's a dopamine problem. So anything that's boring, instantly, the minute you think about it, you almost feel like this sinking feeling, like a depressed feeling. So your brain's almost searching for a dopamine hit all the time. So you'll be watching something on TV or looking at something on your phone that's giving you a dopamine hit. So thinking of sitting down and writing up a report or doing your accounts, instantly your dopamine levels drop. So you've kind of got to, you know, like psych yourself up to do it, if that makes sense.